In 10 minutes, I'm going to sum up all things high school algebra. In algebra, we spent almost all of our time, maybe 90% of our time, on variables, lines, and parabolas. And first I want to talk about variables, and then in particular we're going to talk about inequalities. So someone told you there was some number x that minus 2 times that x plus 1 was greater than 7, and we had to obey the rules of treating both sides equally, and we subtract 1 from both sides, so we get minus 2x is greater than 6, and then we divide both sides by minus 2, which flips the inequality, and we get x is less than minus 3, and then we went over to the number line, and here's 0, and went down to minus 3, and we made an open circle because this couldn't be equal to, and then we would shade everything this way, and that was variables, and it was easy. And then we went to lines, and we were introduced to y equals mx plus b, so for example we got y is equal to minus 2/3 x plus 1, and from this we could get the y-intercept is equal to 1, and the slope is minus 2/3, which is rise over run. So this says that when it runs 3, it sinks 2, and then we'd have that line like that, and maybe we threw in a less than or equal to sign, and then so this would be a solid line, and we would do a test point, which was usually 0, 0, and we see that in fact 0 is less than or equal to 0 plus 1, so this part we would shade and this part we would leave blank. Then we went to ax plus by is equal to c, so this is standard form, so for example 2x plus 3y is equal to 12, and from this we were told, like, okay, x equals 0, which is the y-axis. We would cross this out and just be able to read that y is equal to 4, so we'd go back over here and we'd say y is equal to 4, and we'd put a point there, and then we'd be able to cross out the y term, which is the x-axis, and we'd say x is equal to 6, so we would go back to the ring here, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now we'd have 2 points, and that's really all we need to determine a line, and there we go like that. Then the next thing we went into was systems, and systems was just 2 lines, so we would have x plus y is equal to 3, for example, minus 2x minus y is equal to 7, and this was just two equations, 2 unknowns, but really this was two lines because they're both linear equations, and so they would go like this, and then we would solve this for the x and y of wherever they would intersect. After this, usually we would talk about functions, and functions, if you remember from 2nd grade, it was no different from a box, so we would put an x on the top, and out would come a new number. So let's say we did with plus 2, and out would come x plus 2, and then we would also talk about in algebra the inverses. So if you put x in the top of the function and there was an inverse, x would come out the bottom here. So the inverse of plus 2 would be minus 2. And also for functions, what was introduced here was domain and range, and domain is nothing more than the x's that go into the function that the function can compute, like square root won't take negative, so to square root domain is just 0 and positive numbers, and the range is what can come out. So it's what can be hit. And also, let's just do a quick one about probability. You probably did a quick unit on probability, and probability is no more than the number of successes over the number of possibilities. And I'm not going to really go into that, but we did all different combinations and permutations, but really they were just to get to probability. Then we went to parabolas, which was ax squared plus bx plus c, and that was a function of x. And then we learned that at minus b over 2a, at x equals minus b over 2a, we have an axis of symmetry. So let me draw, so that's axis of symmetry, and then we would find the vertex, and if a was positive, it would open up. But really parabolas were all about getting these zeros, and we got the zeros by factoring, and we got it by completing this, or we got it by completing the square, and then we got it by the quadratic formula, and from the quadratic formula there's a term in there that's the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and when this b squared minus 4ac was negative, we were introduced to the concept of this imaginary number where I squared is equal to minus 1, and if we had imaginary roots in our quadratic, just meant that the parabola didn't cross the x-axis. And then you probably went into other functions like the exponential function. There was growth and decay, and the inverse of an exponential function was the log function. Then going back, there was this absolute value function, x minus 2 is equal to 8 absolute value of x minus 2 is equal to 8, and you might be special, but there's nothing special about you if you hated absolute value, because when you had to do this and you said x minus 2 is equal to 8 or x minus 2 is equal to positive 8, like everybody else, you said, please, why can't you just take a side and be positive 8 or negative 8? So this was probably a monkey on most people's backs. And so anyway, that's algebra. Hopefully in less than 10 minutes.